We turn now to a New Zealand business success story that's really taking off. It's called Allbirds. And for the uninitiated, it's a shoe company which numbers amongst its investors Leonardo DiCaprio. The company was the brainchild of Tim Brown, a former All-White, who'd spent an awful lot of time in football boots and became moderately obsessed with how loud and artificial they all were and how often they needed to be replaced. His objections to the boots turned into wondering, and he came up with the idea of a shoe made of merino wool. It sounds fanciful, but it's gone off, and the latest Allbirds triumph is Sweet Foam, a carbon-negative green ethylene vinyl acetate made from sugarcane. All of this Tim Brown told me from realising he really didn't like his football gear, and a dream he backed with his own money.
Initially, it was all, it was all out of my savings for the first few years, and with some help from a little bit of help from some family and friends, and then it kind of there was a Kickstarter campaign that I launched in 2015 to sort of test the idea, and that was really validating, and that gave us a little bit of capital, and then when I got together with Joey, my co-founder, we'd done a lot of the work. It'd been years at that point. And we decided to raise some money, and we raised a couple of $1 million of seed money initially here in the Bay Area, set up the business, moved from London where I was living, and decided to go after it. And that's been really, really helpful in getting us off the ground.
And what's your revenue now? How many pairs are you selling?
We haven't told anyone about that. We just kind of kept our head down and not talked about any of that stuff. But we did disclose, probably just coming up to our second anniversary, just prior to releasing our second material innovation in the eucalyptus fibre, and we disclosed that we'd sold 1 million pairs of shoes.
Wow.
Made out of New Zealand wool, which was a pretty cool moment and a moment to celebrate, and that had happened pretty quickly, and sort of was a moment where we I think disclosed a little bit of some of the success that we were lucky enough to have.
So you're north of 1 million, well north of 1 million now, I suspect.
Yeah, there's been more since then, and look, it's going well. We've got the foundation, I think, of a really meaningful business in an enormous category, and this was a big moment yesterday for us, John, bringing out this material. It's been about 3 years in the making. We partnered with a Brazilian multinational green energy company to basically, they invested some money to reconnect some pipes, and we worked out a way to bring this natural material, sugarcane, and make what at least initially was a carbon negative version of this common material, and we're using it in our products, but we've also made it we're making it available to the larger footwear industry with a view that this problem of sustainable manufacturing is not going to be solved just by us, and so that's been a cool part of the story too.
Yeah, it's a really good story on all levels, and I think the footwear industry needed a radical reinvention and was forced to confront its own practices. For many of us, the first we heard about it was Naomi Klein and No Logo, right, which must be 20 years old now.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're sustainable across the board. And when Leonardo DiCaprio announced he was investing in you, and he tweeted, proud to be an investor in Allbirds, a company dedicated to creating a more sustainable future by developing new materials and serving as a model for the footwear industry, he also meant a model for the footwear industry in terms of your relationship with the people making the shoes, right?
Yeah, look, I think so. That was a really special moment to have a guy like that sort of say, hey, directionally, these guys are trying to do the right thing. I just want to kind of make the point, we've got a long way to go. We're 3 years old. The topic of truly making things sustainably is incredibly complicated, and we certainly don't have all the answers, but what we do have is a commitment to try very hard, and I think we've started to get some success. I think the fashion industry broadly, if you zoom back out, John, has got a problem. Outside of the fossil fuel industry, it's the largest contributor of carbon emissions. And quite frankly, we should be able to put a man on the moon. We should be able to make a T-shirt and a pair of shoes more sustainably. And there's a real problem to be solved there. And we sort of are of the opinion that small businesses like ours can move faster, can make things like sustainability and non-negotiable, and with different types of business models, they can truly make a bit of an impact, and that's what we've tried to do.
Have you seen the Prime Minister being interviewed on Checkpoint yesterday?
I missed it.
No, that's all right. You're in San Francisco. In fact, you were travelling. But the point of this was that wasn't a vanity question. It was simply that she was wearing a pair of your shoes.
Well, that's very cool. I have to say, I got a call from my mum and dad who lived just north of Wellington, you know, when she gifted the Australian Prime Minister a pair of Allbirds.
Yeah, Malcolm Turnbull, yeah.
It was one of those ones that sort of, you know, all of a sudden our brand's bringing nations together. It was a good moment, John. International diplomacy. But it's special, and, you know, it's very, very cool. And, you know, it's been her, it's been DiCaprio, it's been, you know, a bunch of people have organically found this story and connected with it, and that's been beyond the wildest dreams. So it's been cool to see.
Yeah, I bet it has. I wonder if the most sincere form of flattery is when you're just walking along the street and you see people in your shoes. Has that happened yet? Just total strangers wearing your footwear?
Oh, all the time. All the time. And I'm always asking how it's going, and
you stop them.
Look,
you accost them in the street, do you?
For a long time. This was a bad idea for a long time, John, in the early days, long before it was a good one. And probably sort of circa 2009 when we started trying to work on this, and you know, hundreds of prototypes to arrive at this idea of a shoe made out of material that had never really been involved in footwear before. So this has been a surprise to me just as much as anyone else, but it's certainly been cool to see.
And so, Tim, when you see someone in the street and you stop them and you introduce yourself and say, I'm the owner of the company and those shoes were my idea, well, what do they say back to you?
I normally don't do that. I normally just say, how are those going? Are they good? Are they comfortable? What could be better? It's amazing what you learn when you know, when you ask people like that. And for the most part, it's this simple idea that actually, you know, comfort is the number one reason why people buy shoes. And you know, we've tried to sort of solve this with materials that are not just better for the environment, but make better products. So kind of a really simple idea in a way. And the people doing all the hard work are the merino farmers down in the South Island. So you know, what's been cool, I think, as a Kiwi is to sort of see this material having a complete renaissance. You know, and I don't think there's been too many young Kiwis at the moment growing up dreaming to be a merino farmer or a sheep farmer, and I think that's about to change. I feel like this material is starting to have a real moment, certainly in the States. So it's very, very exciting.
Tim Brown, who was the founder, as you heard, of Allbirds, with his own money, the dream he was standing in. I have to say, I look at the rugby boots my son wears, and they're appalling things. Gauche, they stink. They don't seem to be made of any discernible material. They're overpriced. We know that the people who made them probably aren't earning very much. And the fact that he looked down at the boots he was wearing when he was playing for the All Whites and thought, I can do better than this, and has in fact done so, is a pretty wonderful story.